Hi everyone, we're back prepping for Storm King's Thunder. Hi. So just to recap the last two DM prep episode I made, basically what I decided to do is to show you how I prep for a campaign. This the current campaign is that I'm running or will be running is Storm King's Thunder for my players, and this time, since this campaign is as they say it in the book, there's no ticking clock. We are not under any pressure to finish it fast. There's no a big villain master plan that will resolve in 3 weeks unless the players or the characters do something. Then I decided to take this campaign into a more relaxed, using a more relaxed approach and letting the players explore the world, explore the Forgotten Realms, and develop their characters without any pressure. So what I'm doing is, instead of using the adventure and using it as is, as if the characters, they get a quest, they complete it, they get the next quest, they complete that one as well, and so on and so forth. What I decided to do is to basically even out the edges and allow the story to evolve in a more natural way. So it means that the group will have time to explore all kinds of activities and do whatever they want. They'll have time to actually feel and experience the world, and this way, when things happen, when they actually need to embark upon a quest or something like that, they will feel more inclined to do so because they have this connection with the setting. So to recap the first two episodes that I recorded, the first one was all about Nightstone, which is the first settlement the players or the characters visit. I decided that they basically work for this gnome in Waterdeep, and he sent them to Nightstone to deliver a ring to the ruler of Nightstone, one named Lady Velrosa. And when the characters show up, they find the place in ruins. They explore it. They find some goblins inside. They encounter agents of the Zentarium, and they have this moral dilemma. Who do they help? The guards that are recovering from the giant's attack, or the Zentarium, who are trying to make Nightstone into a base of operation for their organization. And then the players or the characters are, they might explore the surrounding and find that the villagers, most of them are trapped inside caves where the goblin tribe is living. So this is basically what we did, or what I did in the first episode, and I prepared this adventure sheet that I showed you how I edit it and how I arrange my notes. And I'm not planning for all of this to happen within one session. It can take a few sessions, but this is basically the first chapter, or the first part of the adventure. Once they go back to Waterdeep, then the second chapter begins. And what I decided to do, and I'll show my notes again, I decided to take the second part and make it all about the characters and the world they are living in. I'm not handing a quest so fast. Basically what happens after Nightstone is that one of the survivors in the village hands them a quest, and they should embark and go and do it. I personally didn't feel like this is a natural progression of the story. I felt like, if they will go back to town, to Waterdeep, and they will talk with their employer, this is a more natural way of resolving the story. And then their employer will, absorb the news that Lady Varlosa is dead, and from there we can continue the story. And this is what I did in the second episode. I basically said that the first event is that they go to their employer's shop and say that, listen, you gave us this ring to give to Lady Valrosa, but she's dead. What now? And what I decided to do is to have their employer, this gnome, look very, very sad and tell them, listen, take a day off, let me think about what I'm going to do next. And the whole reason for that was to show that this gnome is, a person. It has a personality and he cares about things. Maybe this lady was a friend of his. So I just wanted to show that the people around the characters are three-dimensional. They have feelings, they have things that they care about, and that's my way of doing it. Now, the purpose of this day off in Waterdeep is basically to have the characters explore a little bit about the city and maybe see some sights, learn about a few things in the city, maybe talk to some of the non-player characters that maybe will happen on their way. Again, the reason is to make Waterdeep seem like a living city. Show them that a lot of characters or a lot of people they meet in around them are actually good people who get up in the morning, go to work, and basically are living in a world that the players happen to live there as well. So that's my approach. And what I did do is I added a few scenes. Now these are not quests or adventures. These are basically, I included something like 3 scenes. As the players explore Waterdeep, I can run these scenes if I want. I'm not expecting my players to interact with these scenes, but they're there to have Waterdeep feel like a real city, a living and breathing city. So for example, I describe this fencer, someone who is selling black market items, and when the players or the characters see him, he immediately bolts. He starts to run. He crosses the street and simply starts to run. And the whole purpose of this is just to make them a little bit suspicious or maybe curious about what's going on. And they can decide, are they chasing him and maybe learning a thing or two about what happens in the city, or are they simply leaving him and continuing to doing their own thing. So I did prepare a few sentences here. What happens when they run after him? What do they see? Who is he? Who is he working for? And again, the whole idea is just to make the city feel real. Another incident is, they go about the city. Maybe they'll try to buy something or go to a merchant. But then they'll see a few sewer workers trying to fix or open these iron gratings that cover a surface shaft that lead into the city's sewer system. And again, this is a very simple scene in which they have 3 members of the Cellarers and Plumbers Guild. They are trying to open the iron gratings, and in the meantime there is a dog barking at them and at whatever is in the shaft, and there's another guild member that complains about noises coming from that shaft. So again, a simple scene of something that going on is in the city. Maybe they'll try and poke their nose inside and see what happened. Maybe they'll just interact with the NPCs and then let go of the situation. But again, the idea is just to simply show them around in the city. One important scene I included here, and as you can see, I added a bit more text to it. This scene actually connects to another scene that will happen in a session or 2. So what I plan, I'll show you the map. Hopefully you can see it. So what I planned is the characters are basically in Waterdeep, and I planned that after the day off, their employer, this gnome, who is actually a Hopper agent, but I don't tell him anything. I don't tell my players anything about it. He basically tells them, listen, thank you for the news. I have a really important mission for you. It's the biggest mission I ever gave you. I need you to travel to the far north and find someone. I know he's in a city called a town called Bryn Shander. I need you to get to him and bring him back to Waterdeep. And please, don't ask any questions. Just trust me. It's really, really important. And in the book, in the adventure, one of the quests that the players receive is indeed to go to that city and deliver some news or something like that. I decided to change things a little bit and simply have them go there because their employer asked them to, which makes sense. To me, it makes more sense in terms of the story. So what I planned is basically to have the characters travel from Waterdeep, which is in here, you should see it in the center of the screen now, and travel north on the high road until they get to Luskan, and from Luskan they have to travel to 10 Towns, which is around here in the upper left corner of the map. Now this is a very long trek from Waterdeep to Luskan. If I take the traveling paces that the Dungeon Master guide basically states, it should take them something about 25 days of travel, but it's on the high road, which is a well patrolled and maintained road. So yes, it's a dangerous journey, but it shouldn't be way above their abilities. And it's an adventure, so they should be interested in doing it, or accepting it. At least, in the context of my story, in which they all work for this gnome who pays them to run all kinds of errands. For example, the one that sent them to Nightstone. So now he asks, instead of traveling for 3 days and arriving Nightstone, please travel for 20 days. Yes, I know it's dangerous. Yes, I know it sounds crazy, but please do it for me. It's really, really important. Now, as you can see, between Waterdeep and Neverwinter, the two big cities of the north, there is this small fortress called Thorn Hold, which is basically this fortress that a clan of dwarf is living in it. So what I decided to do is tell the players, using my gnome voice, as you travel north, there are several cities or towns or outposts that you can visit, and I have contacts in each one of them, and you can knock on the door and ask for a place to stay or a place to spend the night in. Thorn Hold is one of them, one of those outposts. So they will travel from Waterdeep to Thorn Hold, and they'll knock on the door and ask to settle in for a day or for a night. So what I decided is to include in Waterdeep, before they even get the quest from this gnome, I decided to add a scene that is related to the situation in Thorn Hold. And again, the only reason for this scene is to make the Forgotten Realms feel alive. So what they'll see when they travel in the city, they will see the guards of Waterdeep try to arrest a dwarf, and there is this young noble around, basically paying them to do so. He's bending their wrist and telling them, listen, if you won't arrest this dwarf, I will make sure your life are going to be miserable. And this noble is he belongs to the Margasters, the Margaster house. And according to the book and to the Forgotten Realms lore, Thorn Hold is, as I said, it's a fortress. It's currently occupied by dwarf, but in this, the fort original owners are the Margaster family from Waterdeep, and this is a very small bit of lore and Forgotten Realms information. Maybe the players will be interested in it, maybe not, but the whole idea is to make sure that they know, or at least in Waterdeep, they experience and they see this snob noble trying to arrest a dwarf, basically for nothing, paying the guards to arrest this dwarf. And a session later, when they arrive to Thorn Hold, again, I will introduce a scene which will connect to that previous scene, and maybe the players will connect the dots and say, oh, this fortress, these dwarfs, they have this arch enemy, the Margaster house, the Margaster noble family. And again, I'll talk maybe a little bit later about the scene I prepared for Thorn Hold. So again, it's a very simple technique, simply to inject pieces of scenes that will connect as the story unfolds. Some players really enjoy connecting the dots. Some players don't even remember what happened in the last session, but it's there. So this is it basically about Waterdeep. And then the last scene in the previous, in the session that is all dedicated to showing Waterdeep and giving them the quest that will send them north. The last scene is basically this boss of them, this gnome, telling them, listen, this is important. I need you to travel north and bring back this guy back. So this is it. And I included a simple line here that should remind me to design a cliffhanger. I really like to end my sessions with a cliffhanger, but again, since the actual play will take hold only 2 months from now, I still have a lot of to-dos sprinkled around my notes, but that's fine. Okay. Maybe I should state that according to the book, the characters, even if they get this quest to go up north, they don't really make the trek. What will happen is that there will be this cloud giant's castle that will show up above them. This stairway will materialize and basically invite them in, and if they go in, they'll meet this friendly giant who will gladly take them north, and there are a few encounters involved. I decided to postpone this, have the players reach Thorn Hold, maybe have a scene or two in there, just so that they will experience traveling the Sword Coast, traveling north, maybe meeting some people along the way, resolving a very small situation within Thorn Hold, and then once they begin the more dangerous part of the trek to Neverwinter, then they will be approached by this cloud giant, and if they want, they can skip the rest of the overland journey. If not, they can still experience it. So this is like a junction. I don't know what they will choose, so I currently won't prep for it, or not in this episode, maybe in the next one. I need to prepare this branch. But for now, I'm assuming that the goal of this session, the third prep time session, is to get the characters from Waterdeep to Thorn Hold, and this is it. So I prepared a new template, and if you've been watching the previous 2 episodes, you should be familiar with it. Basically a recap, then the major NPCs that the character meet, and then major events and locations. So I will recap here that the PCs, let's say that the PCs were sent by Jolly, this is their boss, to the town of Bryn Shander in the far north to find a man named Sirach of Waterdeep and return and escort him back to the city of Splendor. So the city of Splendor is basically another name for Waterdeep. So all I'm saying here is that they were sent by their boss to the far north to find this man, Sirach of Waterdeep, and they need to escort him back to the city of Splendor. Now, basically what happens is that the characters leave Waterdeep and they find themselves on the high road. The high road is this road connecting, as you see this dotted red line. So it basically starts from Waterdeep north up to Neverwinter, and then it goes further north to Luskan. And this is where the high road ends. The characters will need to get to 10 towns, which is in this area. This is the map. So you can see 10 towns here in the midst of this place called Icewind Dale. Again, by the book, this road is basically maintained by forces from Neverwinter. And again, this is a little bit of lore. Some players will be interested in it, some players won't. But what happened is that the ruler of Neverwinter is was one of the ruling lords of Waterdeep, and he was deposed and he left to Neverwinter. And his mission in life is to basically make Neverwinter even stronger than Waterdeep. And Waterdeep is basically the New York of the Sword Coast, and he wants to make Neverwinter as big as Waterdeep. So basically he invests a lot in building roads and maintaining commerce, etc. So he basically sends those patrols south and north to make sure that the high road is open, maintained, and safe. So what I decided to do is have two scenes on the high road. So the first one is basically I wanted the players to know that this road is maintained by Neverwinter. So I just wanted them to encounter this Neverwinter patrol. So let's just write it down. So again, I'm writing it very briefly. If I'll need, I'll expand it later on. But all I'm saying right here is that the PCs meet a patrol from Neverwinter, and this patrol is basically I thought of maybe it could go either way. We can have a simple patrol, several soldiers mounted on horses, and they simply walk the road, and maybe they'll exchange some things with the players. Or I thought that this patrol is actually sent to secure this crew of workers who are fixing some feature of the road, maybe a small bridge, an outpost, a crumbling tower, a guard tower, or something like that, and simply have this exchange of the players watching people who actually maintain the road and care about the well-being of the people of the north. So this patrol, the PCs meet a patrol from Neverwinter. This patrol is sent to watch over a crew of stone masons and stone masons working to fix a crumbling, or not fix, maybe a rebuild. Build crumbling outpost between Waterdeep and Thorn Hold. Yeah, so basically this is it. We can, for example, give, select a name for, let's say, the commander of this post. Maybe it will be a, we can have him, a human, maybe a female. Let's say Remora. Yes, that should be fine. The patrol's captain, a young woman named Remora. Remora what? Remora Van Gund. No. Netheridge. So the patrol's captain, a young woman named Remora Netheridge, is worried about giant activity in the region, as reported by her officer back in Neverwinter. So I only plan this as, the characters will show up. They'll see a few soldiers watching over this crew of workers, and when they'll speak with the captain, they'll see that she's very wary. She's looking around to the sky, and she's very perceptive. And if they'll ask what's going on, she'll say, I got some reports when I was before I left Neverwinter that there is an increase in giant activity in the region. I just want to finish this job and get back to behind the walls of Neverwinter. So this is a very simple encounter. There are I don't expect any combat or something like that. Again, just showing them that the world around them is a living thing. Things happen even if it's not to give them XP or treasure. The next encounter is actually something I dug up from the book. So this book in page 69, I think. So from page 68 in the book, they give this very nice list of random encounters that the DM can use when his players are traveling through the north. So I decided to just pick one of the encounters, and I decided to make it a mystery encounter instead of combat. I assume that in Nightstone the characters had a lot of combat, and maybe in Neverwinter, if they followed some of the scenes, they could have the opportunity of some combat. So here I just wanted a mystery encounter that somehow relates to giants. So the random encounter is called Dig Site. So basically it describes this fire giant who is using a magical item called the Rod of the Vonidod to uncover something or extract something from the ground. And in this book, the Vonidod is this huge construct made by giants that can basically, it's the Godzilla of the giants. It can be used to wreak havoc all over the Salt Coast. And the fire giants are basically looking for parts of this construct. This construct was dismantled and lost years ago. They search for parts of this creature using a magical rod. So this encounter actually describes a fire giant overseeing a group of goblins and hobgoblins in a dig site. But what I decided to do is just have all of this already happened, and the giant already left and took the pot that he was searching for. So what the players see is this empty dig site, but we can color it a little bit. So let's see the PC's spot a 30-foot deep crater not far from the road. If they get close enough to investigate, they see shovels and picks scattered at the site. Obviously something huge was something huge was dug up from the ground and was carried someplace else, let's say. I'll write down that goblin tracks are everywhere, as well as tracks belonging to a giant-sized humanoid. The hole in the ground where the where whatever was dug up was lying in resembles a I don't know. So basically what I wanted to do is, have the players investigate the site and suddenly realize that whatever was extracted from the ground resembles this part of really a colossus construct. So I thought maybe to have a hand, or maybe a foot, or maybe an eye or something like that. A colossal hand. As if a god, as if a how did they say? Particularly large limb was resting underground. Something like that. So excuse my my English, but you get the idea. So it's basically this scene in which I only hope that the players will go around, ask questions, roll some die to spot, to investigate. I'll tell them everything about goblin tracks and maybe the remains of pulleys and levers and giant size footsteps, and eventually I'll describe the fact that whatever was extracted from the earth, it looks like this colossal hand. Maybe they'll even find fragments of strange metal or strange stone inside. So it's just to spark their imagination again. Let them know that something is going on, something giant-sized is going on, and simply to have them wonder. So this is it. The next thing that I thought about is, and if you're hearing all these noises, I basically have this notebook that I keep, and I jot down ideas, and I let them roam in my mind until they form into scenes I can actually use. So these are two simple scenes that happened during the travel to Thorn Hold, and the next session. The next scene is in Thorn Hold itself. So here I have this scene in mind, but I don't have all the details, all the specifics finished. What I wanted to do is basically have them reach Thorn Hold, and instead of a warm welcome from the dwarves, they'll get this. Listen, you can, if you want, you can camp within the confines of the fortress, but we won't let you in. You can only use the inside, the yard inside the walls, but you're not allowed into the main building. And if the players will ask around, their contact will tell them that there has been 2 murders inside Thorn Hold, and 2 weaponsmiths were found dead with claw marks upon their body, and the dwarves are very worried. So, but we can handle it. So you just rest, and we'll fix everything. And as soon as you can leave, just leave. Hopefully, it will steer the players' imagination, and they will investigate and maybe try to help the dwarves find out what's going on. And what I thought to include is, again, connecting the dots to the scene in Waterdeep. House Magster, I think we called it. I'm not sure. Let's me see in my second. Margaster. So House Margaster basically hired a Zentarim assassin to, start killing weaponsmiths as a way to harass the dwarves and make them think that maybe living in the fortress isn't such a good idea. And I want the characters and the dwarves cooperate in exposing this Zentarim agent. So this is a very short mystery scene. It could revolve and fill up an entire session. It can be a half of a session, something like an hour worth of talking to the locals, understanding that there is a problem here, maybe doing some investigation, and then with the dwarves reach the conclusion that there is a Zentarim, not a Zentarim, but someone is actually in the fort and is killing those weaponsmiths. And again, the whole idea is to connect 2 dots, the one that was in Waterdeep and the one that in the location that the players are visiting right now, and show the players that even though a lot of the people in the realms are actually good guys who are just trying to make a living, maybe some of those people around them are actually evil enough to even resort to murder. One important thing I want to note is that I'm constructing this scene in a way that will make the dwarves actually not incompetent idiots. So a lot of the time, a lot of adventurers assume that the locals simply cannot handle themselves, and only the adventurers can come and save the day. And for me, it's like it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, the whole world doesn't revolve around the characters and the players. So what I wanted to do is to make the dwarves not incompetent, but they are at lost. So they found 2 bodies. They have a cleric that casts Speak with the Dead on those bodies, and both of the bodies reveal that this giant metallic cat basically killed them. And the dwarf are trying to seek and find this cat, but they don't find it. And maybe the players will be lucky enough to spot what's going on. So it's not that the dwarves are completely incompetent, they were just unlucky so far. So this might alleviate the fact that the players are important. They are, you know, the heroes, but they are not, you know, not all the world is on their shoulders. So let's say Jolly's contact, a dwarf named, and I wrote a name here, Thorn Stone Shaft. Invites the pieces inside the court, but tells them to avoid the main building. There were 2 recent murders of dwarven weaponsmiths inside, and the dwarfs are working to you know, find what's going on. Okay, so this is a very basic you know, the setting. The dwarfs are unaware of a Zentarim agent hired by the Margaster noble family in Waterdeep. Nope. One of the time agent hired by the Margaster noble family in Waterdeep to harass the dwarfs and persuade them to leave the fort. Now here's the bit that I will simply write it down. I don't have all the specifics. I will inflate it closer to the session into a real, you know, something that I can basically improvise around this scene, but I rather not, because it's a mystery scene and there will be clues that the players will ask me, what do they see, what do they hear. So I'll need to write that down, but not now. This is only the skeleton of the adventure. So what happens is the Zent assassin is using a secret passage through the walls to enter the fort, summon a demonic creature to assassinate a dwarf, and leave once the murder is done. Now again, why did I decide on the Zents? Because in the book, let me find it real fast. The book actually describes Thorn Hold, and it describes it as this, you know, yeah. So basically, what is written is that Thorn Hold was once the property of the Margaster family of Waterdeep. We discussed them, and has been held by the Knights of Samular and the Zentarim in the past. So basically, the Zentarim occupied this place a long time ago. So having the Zentarim know of a secret passage through the wall is something that we can actually use. So the Zent assassin is using a secret passage to the walls, known only to the Zentarim who occupied this fort in the past, to enter the fort, summon a demonic creature to assassinate and leave once the murder is done. Let's write about the clerics. A dwarven cleric living in the fort cast speak with the dead on the bodies, learning that they were killed by a metallic looking cat, or maybe let's say a large metallic cat. Yep. Okay, so again, I just outline the scene. I don't have all the specific, but basically they arrive Thorn Hold, and they learn that something is not as it should be there. The dwarves are worried. They are making an attempt to learn what's going on, and what I thought of is that when the players actually camp in the courtyard, they see, hopefully they will keep watch, if I know my players, even if they are inside of a dwarven fort, they will keep watch, and maybe one of the characters will actually see the Zentarium open the secret passage, sneaking into the fort, and maybe this will trigger this short maybe combat scene, maybe stealth scene, eventually leading to the capture of this Zentarium agent, exposing the Margaster family new scheme, and obviously they have a lot of schemes, and again, it's to expose this bit of lore, a bit of an interesting conflict between the dwarfs that currently live in Thorn Hold and that Margaster family. And if the players will interrogate the Zentarium agent, he will say, listen, the Zentarium have been living in this fort years before, so we know every stone here. This place will never be safe for you, etc., etc. So it's basically providing some background to the players as they solve this mystery, and making the dwarfs hopefully close friends, because they helped them actually capture this assassin. So again, this whole session is about, it's continuing the last session in terms of showing the world, introducing the players and the characters to characters around who actually live in the Sword Coast, and it's not about combat and looting dungeons and taking a quest or something like that. It's simply exploring the Sword Coast. But while exploring the Sword Coast, in every corner that you look, something interesting has happened. So in Waterdeep, there is this sewer problem, and this fencer who is just running away when he sees the characters. Why? What's going on? This is what I want the players to ask themselves all the time. What's going on? What's waiting for us in the next intersection? As they leave town, they see this Neverwinter patrol. Again, they meet people. Why are they there? What's going on? Why is this captain of the patrol worried? Then they see the dig site. Obviously, another mystery. Something is going on. The giants are up to something, but they don't know exactly why or what are they up to. And when they arrive Thorn Hold, again, something interesting is going on there. So as you can see, even though I'm not inflating every scene, but I'm making sure that every scene is interesting. And in every scene, something interesting is going on, and the players have a lot of opportunities to interact with the environment, with NPCs around, and for each NPC they get to learn something about Neverwinter, something about Waterdeep, something about Thorn Hold. Hopefully, when they'll get to actually working toward fulfilling their quest, they will have enough information and enough friends and allies and NPCs that they have interacted with to make the Sword Coast alive in their minds, and so they will care and they will want to take on quests that should save the Sword Coast. Why? Because there are a lot of cool places and people we visited and that we care about, We want everyone to be fine and live their life. So it's up to us to make sure that the good dwarfs from Thorn Hold live a long and prosperous life, etc. So this is my way of thinking, and this is the way I construct my scenes. Now again, I will revisit this page closer to the session and actually fill in the details. Maybe I'll add a small map of Thorn Hold. Maybe I'll provide statistics for the Neverwinter Patrol. Interesting statistics, not combat statistics, because I don't think anything will happen there. Maybe I will stat the Zentarim agent and think of ways that he can flee, or what exactly are the evidence that the Margaster family that connect the Margaster family to the agent, to the assassination attempt. And again, as I do with every session, I ask myself, what if the characters decide to ignore Thorn Hold and just move on? What happens if they don't agree to take this quest by the gnome that is their employer? What he will do? So all these things I'll think about as the session come closer. But even right now, I have enough material to run for something like, I don't know, I think 4 sessions. Just by having the notes prepared so far. So this is it. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it will help you in some way if you prepare the same adventure, or if you prepare even a generic campaign. And I urge you to comment and say what you liked, what you didn't like. If you want me to explain any part of the my approach to writing notes, or how I think about scenes, or any questions that you have, you can write it in the comments. And you can subscribe to watch me live. I do it every Sunday. It's I think it's 3 p.m. EST, but I'm not sure. It's 10 p.m. GMT +2, which is Israel time. So this is it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next time. Bye bye.